Hello, I'm Mohsen Jamal and you watch Afghannews. Afghan officials say 28 members of a mine removal team who were kidnapped in Western Farah province last week have been freed. 32 deminers were abducted in the province on July 6, but 4 of them were beheaded at the weekend, said Naqibullah Shafi, a spokesman for the governor of the province. The remaining men who worked for the demining agency for Afghanistan were released after mediation with tribal elders, and officials Shafi said on Monday. On Sunday, Abdul Basir, a Farah provincial council member, accused the Taliban of the abductions and killings, but Taliban spokesman Qari Yusuf Ahmadi said that the men had been abducted by outlaws and the Taliban were not involved. An outgoing American military commander in Afghanistan says violence is down in some heavily populated areas of the country where coalition troops have been concentrated, but that violence continues in rural areas. U.S. Army Lieutenant General David Rodriguez spoke briefly to reporters on Monday just before boarding a plane in Kabul, officially ending his job as commander of the U.S.-led coalition's Joint Command and Deputy Commander of U.S. forces in Afghanistan. Rodriguez left just after a ceremony where he handed his responsibilities over to U.S. Army Lieutenant General Curtis Scaparotti. Rodriguez also said that progress in building up the Afghan National Security Forces will be uneven, but that the U.S.-led coalition wants to keep it moving forward as fast as it can. Hundreds of protesters marched in Afghanistan's east and south on Monday, demanding a military response to weeks of shelling from Pakistan. Relations between the two neighbors have been strained by weeks of mortar shelling that Kabul says has killed at least 42 civilians and wounded scores more. Over 800 rockets have crossed the border since early June, but President Hamid Karzai has said Afghanistan will not respond with military force. Protesters called on the government to retaliate if the cross-border shelling does not stop. The issue has infuriated Afghans from ordinary villagers to the top echelons of power. A blast in the Battagram district in Pakistan's northwest is reported to have left at least 6 people dead. Local media said the dead included 3 security personnel, 2 women and a child, while at least 15 others were severely injured. Monday's explosion took place near an office of the Water and Power Development Authority at the site where the Pakistan Muslim League Qaid Party was to hold a gathering addressed by its leader Amir Muqam. Pakistan's President Asif Ali Zardari also confirmed the attack. Sources and eyewitnesses said that a suicide bomber blew himself up when he was stopped by security personnel. Elsewhere, an explosion was also reported at an arms depot near the Sehala area of Islamabad in Pakistan, killing at least 1 and wounding 3 others. U.S. Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta says the United States is very concerned about Iran providing weapons to militants in Iraq as he prepares to meet with Iraqi leaders about the future of U.S. troops in the country. Panetta told a group of U.S. soldiers in Baghdad Monday that the United States cannot allow the arming of Iraqi insurgents to continue and will address the situation directly. U.S. officials accuse Iran of supplying Shiite militia men with weapons that killed most of the 15 U.S. troops killed in June, which was the deadliest for U.S. forces in Iraq in 2 years. Panetta is scheduled to meet with Iraqi leaders, including Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, and press them to decide whether they want 46,000 U.S. troops to remain in the country beyond a deadline set for the end of this year. He will also urge the leaders to do more to fight the Shiite militias. At least 11 people have been killed after a series of explosions at a munitions dump in southern Cyprus. Several huge explosions hit the Zaigi naval base early on Monday morning. Local media reported that the explosions sparked wildfires in adjacent scrubland. Aliki Stylinao, a defense ministry spokeswoman, said that the death toll could not immediately be confirmed, but local media quoted sources are saying that it was at least 8, with as many as 30 feared injured. A spokesman for the state-run electricity authority said that the blast, which struck shortly before 6 a.m. local time, also damaged the island's largest power station. More than 90 people are still missing after a tourist boat sank in a broad stretch of Russia's Volga River on Sunday afternoon, emergency services officials say. 5 bodies were recovered and 80 survivors pulled out of the water by a passing craft after a 2-deck river cruiser, the Bulgaria, sank in the Tatarstan region, said Irina Andrianova, spokesman for the Emergency Situations Ministry. The boat was heading to the regional capital Kazan, about 830 kilometers east of Moscow, when it sank in water about 20 meters deep. The ministry's regional branch said it remains unclear what caused the event. Adrianova said, adding that the boat carried 125 passengers, 22 crew and 35 other staff. Muammar Gaddafi's administration is in talks with the French government, one of the Libyan leaders, Sanz has said in an interview. The Algerian El Khabar newspaper published the comments on Monday, quoting Saif al-Islam from Tripoli, the Libyan capital. There was no immediate comment from Paris. Later, Gerald Longuet, the French defense minister, said it was time for the rebel Transitional National Council to come to the negotiating table with Gaddafi's administration. Longuet said the rebels should not wait for Gaddafi's defeat, but the rebels have so far refused to hold talks as long as Gaddafi remains in power, a stance which before now none of NATO's major powers has publicly challenged. The top military commanders from the United States and China said they held candid talks Monday about territorial disputes in the South China Sea and other contentious issues. Chinese Armed Forces Chief Chen Benget said the two also discussed cybersecurity, China's military development, and the attitude of some U.S. politicians toward China. Admiral Mike Mullen is in Beijing on a 4-day visit, the first by a U.S. military chief of staff since 2007. Chen said the two found a lot of common ground but had different opinions on certain issues. Mullen said after his arrival in Beijing Sunday that he is worried about China's disputes with the Philippines and Vietnam over competing territorial claims in the resource-rich South China Sea, while China says the United States should stay out of the disputes. And the Syrian troops killed at least one civilian in overnight raids in the city of Homs, activists said, a day after the authorities held a national dialogue meeting boycotted by the opposition. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said on Monday that 20 people were injured as residents tried to take shelter from armored vehicles, firing machine guns on densely populated neighborhoods. Residents said the raids were the heaviest since the military stormed the central city, Syria's third largest, 2 months ago to try to crush street protests against President Bashar al-Assad's rule. On Sunday, Syria had opened a national dialogue that it held as a step towards multi-party democracy, but opposition figures said they would boycott the meeting and protest at the government's continued deadly crackdown on dissent. And that is all for now. Thanks for staying with Afghan News.